The room went silent. Not the polite kind of silent. The kind where everyone stops pretending to look at their phones and actually looks up. I stood at the front of the conference room, mic in hand, slides behind me glowing with data I'd spent years perfecting. Someone had just asked me to evaluate a project proposal. A proposal that looked suspiciously familiar. Because I'd written the original version of it. 5 years ago. Before I was fired. I smiled. Not warm. Not friendly. Cold. I already perfected this years ago. I let that sit for a second. Then I added, voice steady, eyes locked on one person in the back row. I wouldn't want to waste anyone's time by repeating mistakes. The color drained from their face. My ex-coworker. The one who got me fired. The one who thought I was gone for good. They weren't smiling anymore. Let me tell you how I got here. 5 years ago, I was on top of the world. Well, my version of it anyway. I worked at a mid-sized consulting firm in the city. The kind of place where your work actually mattered if you were good at it. And I was good. Really good. I managed client accounts, wrote reports that got quoted in boardrooms, and had a promotion track that looked inevitable. My boss loved me. Clients requested me by name. My reviews were spotless. I wasn't trying to be anyone's competition. I was just doing my job. But apparently, that was the problem. Because there was someone else on my team who didn't see it that way. Let's call him Derek. Derek was the guy who showed up late to meetings with a coffee and a smile, cracked jokes during presentations, and somehow convinced everyone he was leadership material. He wasn't. He was a performer. And I was his ghostwriter. At first, I didn't notice. I thought we were collaborating. Team effort, right? Wrong. Derek had a strategy. And I was the stepping stone. It started small. A report I'd written on client retention strategies went missing from the shared drive. 2 days later, Derek presented it in a meeting. Word for word. I sat there, staring at my own slides on the screen, my own analysis coming out of his mouth. He didn't even glance at me. After the meeting, I pulled him aside. Hey, that was my report. He blinked, surprised. Then laughed. Oh, was it? I thought it was a team thing. My bad. He patted my shoulder. Don't worry. I'll mention you next time. He didn't. A month later, it happened again. Then again. But this time, it wasn't just about stealing credit. Rumors started. Little things at first. Someone in HR mentioned I'd been difficult to work with on a project. A client supposedly complained I was hard to reach. None of it was true. But it didn't matter. Because Derek was in their ear first. He'd smile at me in the hallway, ask how my weekend was, then turn around and tell management I was struggling with workload. I started getting called into meetings I wasn't prepared for. My boss would ask me about deadlines I'd already hit. People stopped CCing me on emails. It was subtle. But it was poison. And Derek was the one holding the syringe. I tried to fight back. I documented everything. Saved emails. Kept records. But here's the thing about office politics. The person who talks the loudest wins. And I wasn't loud. I was good. And that wasn't enough. Derek wasn't just stealing my work anymore. He was building a case against me. And I didn't even know it. It started with performance metrics. Our team used a project tracking system where we logged hours, deliverables, client feedback. Standard stuff. Except Derek had figured out how to game it. He'd log hours on projects I was leading, claim credit for milestones I hit, and attach his name to client emails I sent. Then he'd screenshot those entries and send them to management. Just keeping everyone updated on progress. Meanwhile, my actual work was being buried. Reports I submitted? Delayed. Meetings I led? Co-facilitated by Derek. Client wins I secured? Team effort, but Derek took the lead on strategy. I'd see the emails forwarded to my boss. I'd try to correct the record. Actually, I handled that account solo. My boss would nod. Right, but Derek's been keeping me in the loop more consistently. Translation, Derek was better at managing up. And I was better at doing the actual work. Guess which one mattered more? Then came the emails. Derek started twisting my words. I'd send a straightforward update, client meeting rescheduled to Thursday. He'd forward it to HR with a note, FYI, she's been rescheduling a lot lately. Might be a capacity issue. I'd push back on a bad idea in a meeting. He'd email management after, she's resistant to feedback. Might need a coaching conversation. Every single thing I did got reframed as a problem. And HR started watching me. Not him. Me. I was called into a check-in meeting with HR and my boss. They sat me down, very serious, very concerned. We've noticed some challenges with your recent performance. I stared at them. What challenges? They pulled out a folder. Printed emails. Metrics. Feedback from Derek. None of it was real. But all of it looked real. I tried to explain. I pulled up my own records, my emails, my project logs. They nodded politely. We'll take this into consideration. But I could see it in their eyes. They'd already made up their minds. Derek had poisoned the well. And I was drowning in it. 3 weeks later, I was called into a conference room. No warning. No meeting invite. Just my boss and an HR rep waiting with the door closed. I knew before I sat down. We've decided to go in a different direction. That's it. No specifics. No examples. No second chances. Just, this isn't working out. I asked why. They gave me corporate speak. Cultural fit. Team dynamics. Performance concerns. I asked for documentation. They said it was internal. I asked if this had anything to do with Derek. They looked uncomfortable. This decision was made collectively. Translation: Derek sold them a story and they bought it. I had 2 hours to pack my desk. No severance. No recommendation letter. No explanation I could give to future employers. Just a cardboard box and a security escort to the lobby. I walked past Derek's desk on my way out. He looked up. Our eyes met. He didn't say anything. But he smiled. Not big. Not obvious. Just enough for me to know. He won. I walked out of that building with my box, my dignity in shreds, and my career in ruins. And I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just left. Because in that moment, I realized something. Anger wasn't going to fix this. Time would. The first month was hell. I applied to 47 jobs. I got 3 interviews. 0 offers. Recruiters would start interested, then ghost me after checking references. I knew what was happening. Derek's story had spread. Difficult. Underperformer. Let go for cause. None of it true. All of it deadly. My LinkedIn went quiet. Messages from old colleagues stopped. People I thought were friends suddenly didn't have time for coffee. I wasn't just unemployed. I was invisible. I'd wake up at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, replaying every meeting, every email, every moment I could have fought back harder. But I didn't. Because I was too busy being good at my job. And that's what cost me. 2 months in, I hit rock bottom. I was sitting in my apartment, laptop open, staring at another rejection email, when I realized something. I was playing their game. Trying to explain myself. Defend myself. Prove I wasn't what they said I was. But no one cared. Because Derek's version was easier to believe. So I stopped trying to convince anyone. I stopped applying to jobs at companies that knew my old firm. I stopped defending myself. Instead, I made a decision. I was going to disappear. Not forever. Just long enough to become someone they couldn't ignore. I wasn't going to burn bridges. I was going to walk away so I could cross them later. On my own terms. I opened a new tab. Started researching certifications. MBA programs. Freelance consulting networks. If they wanted me gone, fine. I'd be gone. But when I came back, I'd be untouchable. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted time. And I had plenty of it. Year 1 was about survival. I took freelance gigs. Small projects. Contract work that didn't require references from my old firm. Market research. Data analysis. Business strategy for startups that didn't care where I came from as long as I delivered. And I delivered. Every single time. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone but myself. I needed to remember I was good at this. Because for a while there, I'd started to believe Derek's version of me. The version where I was difficult. Unreliable. Not good enough. But every client I worked with told a different story. Best consultant we've ever hired. Can we extend the contract? Do you have availability for another project? Slowly, the noise in my head started to quiet. I wasn't broken. I was just in the wrong room. So I built a new one. I enrolled in an MBA program. Part-time. Online. Expensive as hell. But I didn't care. I wasn't just rebuilding my resume. I was rebuilding me. I studied at night after freelance work. Weekends. Early mornings. Corporate strategy. Financial modeling. Organizational behavior. The same subjects I used to apply instinctively, I now understood at a deeper level. I wasn't just good anymore. I was getting better. And no one from my old life knew. Year 2 was about positioning. I started going to industry conferences. Not the big ones where my old firm would be. The smaller, specialized ones. The kind where the real experts showed up. I networked. Not desperately. Not like I needed something. Just present. I'd sit in on panels, ask smart questions, exchange business cards. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I was just reminding the industry I existed. And people remembered me. Wait, didn't you used to work at? I did. I'm independent now. Oh. Smart move. I never badmouthed my old firm. I never mentioned Derek. I just let my work speak. And it did. I started getting invited to contribute to industry publications. White papers. Case studies. Guest articles. Nothing huge. But visible. My name started showing up in places it hadn't before. And I made sure my LinkedIn reflected every single win. New certification? Posted. Published article? Shared. Client success story? Highlighted. I wasn't bragging. I was building a breadcrumb trail. So when people searched for me, they'd see the new version. Not the one Derek destroyed. The one I built from scratch. Year 3 was about dominance. I landed a consulting contract with a major firm. Not my old one. Better. They wanted someone to lead a complete operational overhaul for a client in financial services. The exact kind of project I used to crush. I said yes. And I delivered a strategy that saved them $4 million in the first quarter. The client loved it. The firm loved it. They offered me a senior consultant role. I turned it down. I appreciate it, but I'm building something of my own. They respected that. And referred me to 3 other companies. That's when things started to snowball. I wasn't chasing work anymore. Work was chasing me. I raised my rates. People paid. I got picky about projects. People waited. I built a reputation for being the person you called when you needed results, not excuses, and the whole time? I watched. I kept tabs on my old firm from a distance. LinkedIn. Industry news. Mutual connections. I saw Derek get promoted to senior manager. I saw him speak at a panel once. Recycled one of my old presentations. I smiled. He thought he'd won. He thought I was gone. But I wasn't gone. I was just warming up. Year 4 was about consolidation. I finished my MBA. Top of my class. Thesis on organizational strategy and competitive positioning. I presented it at a graduate conference. It got published in a business journal. Not a huge one. But credible. And it got noticed. I started getting invited to speak. Small panels at first. Then bigger stages. I talked about business transformation. Strategic pivots. How to rebuild after failure. I never mentioned my story. But people felt it in my words. She's been through something. She knows what she's talking about. I became known as the consultant who didn't just talk theory. I lived it. And my old firm? They started struggling. I saw the signs. Client turnover. Leadership changes. Restructuring announcements. The kind of internal chaos that happens when people like Derek get promoted beyond their competence. I didn't gloat. I just watched. And waited. Year 5 was about presence. I was no longer rebuilding. I had built. I had a client roster most consultants would kill for. I had a reputation that opened doors I didn't even knock on. I had become someone people wanted to work with. Not because I was loud. Because I was undeniable. And then, one day, I got an email. Subject line, speaking invitation, Industry Leadership Summit. I opened it. My old industry. Major event. 3-day conference. They wanted me to keynote a session on strategic transformation. I scrolled down to see who was organizing it. And there it was. Derek's name. Event co-chair. He didn't recognize my credentials. He didn't connect my new consulting brand to the person he got fired 5 years ago. He just saw an expert in the field and sent a standard invite. I stared at that email for a long time. I could ignore it. I could decline politely. Or I could accept. I smiled. Not the warm kind. The cold kind. The kind that comes when you realize the trap was never yours to set. They built it themselves. I just had to walk in. I hit reply. I'd be happy to participate. Looking forward to it. Send. The event was 6 weeks out. I didn't prepare differently than I would for any other keynote. I didn't obsess. I didn't rehearse revenge speeches in the mirror. I just did what I always did. I built a presentation that would make people think. Sharp insights. Real case studies. Practical takeaways. The kind of content that gets quoted in boardrooms for months. Because here's the thing. I didn't need to get Derek. I just needed to be good. Really good. Better than he ever was. Better than he ever could be. The rest would take care of itself. 2 weeks before the event, I got a follow-up email from the planning committee. They wanted to promote my session. Can you send us a short bio and headshot? I sent my current consultant bio. MBA credentials. Published work. Client portfolio. No mention of my old firm. Because I didn't need to. That version of me didn't exist anymore. A few days later, my session went live on the event website. I checked the schedule. My keynote was the closing session. Prime slot. And Derek's name was listed as the moderator for the questions and answers. Perfect. I didn't reach out to him. I didn't send a looking forward to seeing you message. I just let it sit. Let him see my name on the schedule. Let him Google me and realize who I'd become. Or don't. Either way, he'd find out soon enough. The week before the event, I got a LinkedIn message. From Derek. Hey. Saw you're speaking at the summit. Small world. Looking forward to catching up. 3 exclamation points. Too casual. Too friendly. He knew. I didn't respond right away. I let it sit for 2 days. Then I replied. Thanks. See you there. No exclamation points. No warmth. Just acknowledgement. He didn't message again. The night before the event, I didn't sleep much. Not because I was nervous. Because I was ready. I'd spent 5 years getting ready. And tomorrow? Tomorrow I was walking back into the room they kicked me out of. Not as the person they fired. As the person they wished they'd kept. I didn't need revenge. I just needed them to see what they lost. And what I became without them. I walked into the conference center at 8 a.m. 3-piece suit. Navy. Tailored. Hair done. Makeup sharp. Not because I was trying to impress anyone. Because I wanted to feel like the version of myself I'd built over 5 years. Confident. Competent. Untouchable. The lobby was packed. Industry people. Executives. Consultants. The same crowd I used to present to at my old firm. Some faces I recognized. Most didn't recognize me. And that was fine. I checked in at the registration desk, grabbed my badge, and headed toward the speaker lounge. That's when I saw him. Derek. Standing near the coffee station, laughing with 2 other organizers. Same smile. Same posture. Same energy. Like nothing had changed. For him, maybe it hadn't. But for me? Everything had. He looked up. Our eyes met. For a split second, his smile faltered. Then it came back. Bigger. Too big. Oh my God. Hey. He walked over, hand extended. I shook it. Firm. Professional. Derek. Wow. It's been, what, 5 years? You look great. I saw your name on the schedule and thought, wait, is that the same person? He laughed. I didn't. It's me. That's amazing. I mean, seriously, congrats on everything. I saw your bio. MBA, consulting, published work, you've been busy. I have. He shifted his weight. Uncomfortable. So, you're doing the closing keynote. That's huge. I'm moderating the questions and answers after, so we'll be on stage together. I saw. Silence. He filled it. Listen, I know things ended weird back then. But I'm really glad you're doing well. Water under the bridge, right? I looked at him. Really looked at him. And I realized something. He didn't feel guilty. He didn't think he did anything wrong. In his mind, he just played the game better. And I lost. I smiled. Cold. Controlled. We'll see. I walked past him toward the speaker lounge. He didn't follow. The keynote was at 4 p.m. closing session. Biggest room. Packed house. I stood backstage, mic clipped to my lapel, watching the audience file in. 300 people. Maybe more. executives, consultants, industry leaders. Some from my old firm. I saw a few faces I recognized from 5 years ago. People who watched me pack my desk and said nothing. They didn't recognize me yet. But they would. The event coordinator gave me the 2-minute warning. I took a breath. Not nervous. Ready. The lights dimmed. Derek walked on stage to introduce me. All right, everyone, thank you so much for sticking around for our closing keynote. We've saved the best for last. Polite applause. Our final speaker is a leading consultant specializing in strategic transformation and organizational resilience. She's worked with some of the top firms in the industry, published research on competitive positioning, and has an MBA from. He listed my credentials. Impressive on paper. But none of it told the real story. Please welcome to the stage. He said my name. I walked out. Applause. Smiles. Standard conference energy. I stood at the podium, adjusted the mic, and looked out at the crowd. Then I smiled. And I started. 5 years ago, I lost everything. The room went quiet. That's not how keynotes usually start. I lost my job. My reputation. My network. Everything I'd built over a decade, gone in a 2-hour notice. I let that sit. And for a while, I thought that was the end of my career. Pause. It wasn't. I clicked to the first slide. Today, I'm going to talk about strategic transformation. Not the corporate kind. The personal kind. What happens when you lose the game and have to build a new board? I walked them through it. Not my story explicitly. But the framework. How to rebuild credibility from scratch. How to turn invisibility into an advantage. How to let your work speak louder than anyone's narrative about you. I use case studies. Data. Real examples from my consulting work. But anyone paying attention could read between the lines. This wasn't theory. This was lived. The room was locked in. No one checked their phones. No one whispered to the person next to them. They just listened. Because I wasn't giving them fluff. I was giving them truth. And truth is rare in a room full of consultants. I reached the final slide. So here's what I learned. I looked directly at the audience. Some people were nodding. Some were taking notes. Some were just staring. You can't control what people say about you. You can't stop someone from rewriting your story. But you can control what you build next. Pause. And if you build it well enough? I smiled. They'll have to rewrite their story about you. The room erupted. Applause. Standing ovation. Not polite conference clapping. Real applause. I let it settle, then gestured to the side of the stage. I believe we have time for questions and answers. Derek? He walked out, mic in hand, smile frozen on his face. He knew. Everyone in that room who knew our history knew. And even the people who didn't could feel the shift in energy. Derek cleared his throat. Wow. Thank you for that. Really powerful. Let's open it up to questions. Hands shot up. He pointed to someone in the third row. Yes, hi, thank you for that presentation. My question is, how do you evaluate strategic pivots when the foundational data is incomplete or contradictory? I answered. Clean. Confident. Cited a real case study. Another question. Then another. All sharp. All thoughtful. I answered every single one without hesitation. Then someone in the back raised their hand. Derek pointed to them. Yes, last question. The person stood. Older guy. Consultant type. I didn't recognize him. Thank you. This is more of a practical question. I'm currently working on a transformation project that's similar to some of the frameworks you mentioned. The proposal I'm reviewing seems sound, but I'd love your take. It's focused on operational efficiency through process consolidation. He described it in detail. And halfway through, I realized something. I'd written that exact proposal 5 years ago. At my old firm. For a client we never closed. Because I got fired before we could pitch it. I felt the air shift. Derek went stiff beside me. I looked at him. Then back at the audience. And I smiled. I'm familiar with that framework. Pause. I already perfected it years ago. The room went silent. Not uncomfortable. Anticipatory. I kept going. In fact, I wrote the original version of that proposal. It was designed for a financial services client, but the core model is scalable. The issue with most implementations is that people try to shortcut the diagnostic phase, which leads to misalignment later. I walked them through the fixes. Methodically. Precisely. Not showing off. Just demonstrating mastery. When I finished, I added, I wouldn't want to waste anyone's time by repeating mistakes. I didn't look at Derek when I said it. I didn't need to. The room understood. Applause again. Slower this time. Heavier. The kind that comes with realization. Derek tried to wrap it up quickly. All right, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much. But people were already standing. Moving toward the stage. Not to leave. To talk to me. I spent the next hour in the hallway outside the conference room. Business cards. LinkedIn requests. Consulting inquiries. People who'd ignored me 5 years ago were now asking for my availability. Executives from my old firm stood in line to talk to me. They didn't apologize. They just acted like nothing had happened. We should grab coffee? I'd love to pick your brain on a project. Are you taking on new clients? I was polite. Professional. I gave them nothing. Derek stood near the edge of the crowd. Watching. Not talking. Just watching. At one point, someone asked him a question, and he stumbled through an answer. No one was really listening. Because I was in the room now. And he was just the guy holding the mic. 2 weeks after the conference, I got an email. From a senior partner at my old firm. Subject, consulting opportunity. They wanted to hire me. Not as an employee. As an external consultant. To fix the same systems I used to run. I stared at that email for a long time. Part of me wanted to laugh. Part of me wanted to forward it to Derek with a smiley face. But I didn't. Because revenge isn't about rubbing it in. It's about not needing to. I declined politely. Thank you for thinking of me, but my schedule is full for the foreseeable future. I didn't mention why. I didn't need to. A month later, I saw a LinkedIn post. Derek had left the firm. Pursuing new opportunities. Translation, they pushed him out. I didn't comment. I didn't like the post. I just scrolled past. Because he was no longer part of my story. He was a footnote. And I was the whole book. 6 months later, I was invited to speak at another industry event. Bigger stage. Bigger audience. This time, I was the headline. I walked out on stage, looked at the crowd of 800 people, and I realized something. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. I wasn't the person who got fired 5 years ago. I wasn't even the person who rebuilt. I was just me. The version I always could have been if I hadn't wasted time in the wrong room. I gave my keynote. It went viral on LinkedIn. 50,000 views in the first week. People shared it with captions like "This is what resilience looks like." I didn't share it myself. I didn't need to. People ask me sometimes if I ever regret how things went down. If I wish I'd fought harder. Spoken up louder. Burned the bridge on my way out. And the answer is no. Because I didn't burn bridges. I walked away so I could cross them later. On my own terms. They thought getting rid of me was the end. It was just the beginning. I didn't need revenge. I just needed time. And patience. And the kind of coldness that only comes when you stop caring what people think and start caring what you build. Derek thought he won when he got me fired. But he didn't win. He just made space for me to become someone he could never compete with. And that's the thing about revenge. The best kind doesn't require you to do anything. You just become undeniable. And let them watch.